appreciate Mark pointing out that it is now kind of the opportune policy time to make sure that some of the changes that might be beginning to reach into some of the international financial institutions are a little bit more permanent, and that we can prevent the backsliding. And I think particularly now that we are talking about the possibility of a number of developing countries picking up some of the larger bailout credits from the IMF, I think we should keep in mind that credits usually have to be repaid in one way or another, and that the investment or the way the monies are used definitely should lead to such a way that those credits can be repaid, or that a strategy is devised that you don't have to repay all of those credits. Otherwise, we'll be facing within the next 10 years a second debt crisis for the countries that are now maybe in some form hastily bailed out. But want to invite our second commentator, Rogerio Studart, to give us some ideas and maybe bring in some perspective of the international financial institutions, the World Bank, that he's representing, and is there maybe the change of a different thinking within the organization?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. I do not represent the World Bank.
Right,
I represent a constituency of developing countries at the World Bank. It makes a difference because let me tell you something quickly. It's not only a pleasure to be here at this meeting with Ha-Joon, but we have a long history. We were colleagues at UNCTAD at a time that we were both astonished and critical of the process of financial and trade liberalization that took place in the 80s and 90s. So the other thing I have to say, if I was right when I talked to you about 1.5 years, he's been consistently right in the approach to take in terms of development. In terms of development, I'm also happy to know that your daughter is playing soccer. I hope she's rooting for Brazil.
Well,
let me tell you, when I said to Ha-Joon that I thought that this was the crisis of the crisis. I want to talk a little bit about the crisis, not because I want to reveal it. You've heard quite a lot about that, because I want to share with you my concerns, both about the solutions that are being put forth and the scope of possibilities that we have in order to address the issues with the usual way of thinking. This crisis, I would say this is the crisis of all crises, I have to say. And why is that? I don't want to be apocalyptic about this, but when I was talking to Ha-Joon, we had been observing, I'm a market economist who happens to have expertise in development finance, financial sectors, and financial crisis. I never see anything like that. You have at least 3 types of imbalances accumulating throughout 3 decades. Economic imbalances, resources allocation, environmental imbalances, and also a development crisis. In relation to the economic imbalance, you had trade. You look at the trade deficit, behind the trade deficit was a huge imbalance in terms of distribution of labor and also distribution of aggregate demand. I mean, the North was basically consuming, the South was, to put in a very short, producing. The accumulation of trade deficits reflected that, and the interdependence was like never ending. It was a bicycle that was running badly towards some end. And that was underpinned by a process of financial liberalization, which created a leverage that not only allowed for the expansion of aggregate demand in the North beyond anybody's dreams, just looking around, I have to say, and also the elites in the South, but also what made it possible to continue financing the deficits and the debts that were increasing between, and the imbalance between North and South. The integration, the bottom line is what the process of globalization was a process of integration of uneven partners. What you had imbalance in trade, finance that were not sustainable. Now, and when it comes to environment, it was clear for all of us, and to be sincere with you, You know, if the bicycle continue to run, then what I have to say, I mean, we are going towards catastrophe. If you, and I don't have to repeat any analysis of that, but the mode of the consumption partner that has developed in the last 30 years was completely unsustainable. It was a disservice to our daughters, as you know.